And we're live.
It's a great day for wrestling, everyone. Welcome back to the only show hosted by people who don't hate wrestling, especially not wrestling from last millennium.
Absolutely.
So today
There,
we're going to be talking about Survivor Series 1999, and this, in many ways, was a hallmark show that laid down a lot of milestones in wrestling and a lot of storyline anchor points that get referenced to years and years later, which I was not aware of going
yep,
into this pay-per-view. So this was another great selection on kind of our journey through the end of the Vince Russo era and now to pay-per-views that he wasn't writing for.
absolutely. So don't worry, folks, if you haven't checked out the show beforehand, please do on the channel. It definitely is something. And don't worry, there's no horrible mean AEW here. It's all good WWE, and it's all what you should be watching. Dave, this is what I said. I said the most important time to be a wrestling fan or to be aware of as a wrestling fan is from 1999 SummerSlam to around the end of this period to about 2000 in 2000's Royal Rumble, because like so much happens that has left an indelible mark in WWE to this day happens at this point. It's like the most important period of wrestling, I would argue, probably ever, because we're still living of the impact of it. Like things that happen on this show, as you said, are still brought up to this day. So a few things aren't, but one specifically isn't. But
Oh my, that is the line of the night, and I can't even share it. And I think maybe we'll get to it because
we'll
it's
get to
early.
it. We'll get to it.
Oh my gosh,
We'll get to it. But
wow, that caught me off guard.
what's interesting about this is, right, we have a debut of a WWE Hall of Famer, TNA Hall of Famer.
Hmm.
Absolutely, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Didn't
Still,
know it. Did
to
not
this
know that
day.
was happening on this pay-per-view.
It also has,
We're talking, of course, about Sean Stasiak.
of course, Meat, as he would be known. Um, but it has like just some really, really strange matches and setup. And I remember watching this because as a kid, obviously my grandmother would record all these for me. And I'd watch them like after school, the day before, the day after, or whatever. And I remember watching this one a lot and just been like, I hate Survivor Series. And I always hate Survivor Series because I, even up until this point, and before it, when I'd watched them, I never liked Survivor Series. I never thought it was interesting. I never had like the love for the traditional Survivor Series matches, particularly in the mid 90s. But even at this point, I was like, I really hate this, considering the fact that the rest of it was so good. And the year before um, was what's it called, the tournament, the tournament that happens. What I can't remember. The Deadly Game tournament, which I don't think you've seen, Dave. You will see it. Don't worry, it will make sense.
Sounds
It
like
was
a Jennifer Lawrence movie, quite frankly.
No, it's basically the origin of the corporate champion, The Rock, and the origin of people's elbow and stuff like that. It's actually, we will get to it. It's really important. But anyway, because of that, I was like, oh, are they going to do this again? And he didn't, and I was just disappointed as a kid. Just been like, oh, we're back to this traditional garbage. And I still kind of hate the Survivor Series matches, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. They
I'm
should
not a
have
big
just
fan.
they should have just done war games. Like NXT got the right idea to do war games, and Gary's probably screaming somewhere because he just knows, he's like, oh, Dar's talking about war games again. I know Gary is always a big fan of the Survivor Series matches, but for me, I just never liked them. I just think they're
I
really
personally
boring.
think that any wrestling pay-per-view that has the word war in it is worth watching. World War III, War Games.
But no, I think, and also what they do now, where they have like kind of brand versus brand, and then they had bragging rights. Remember that year where they had the same pay per
Yes, I
view?
do
Yeah,
like that. I actually do like
I
when it's
think that.
SmackDown versus Raw in the
Yeah,
Survivor
but
Series.
I think it's when it's for something, it makes sense. For example, Raw versus SmackDown, um, for something like the winner
Right.
gets the championship or the winner gets a trophy. That makes more sense than just bragging rights. That's just silly. It's like, what's that even mean?
Right, because then, yeah, and then they made a whole pay-per-view out of bragging rights.
That was actually better than Survivor Series.
Yeah, you're
So,
right. What is kind of the point of winning Survivor Series? Now, they were making a big deal out of being the lone survivor, something on this
yeah, but
pay-per-view.
what? Yeah, but that.
I didn't know why. They didn't
Yeah,
really.
it didn't go anywhere. It's like, okay, if the winner had of one, like at the overall Survivor, right, they get like a championship. or they get like a title shot or something, then you're like, okay, cool. But if you're just, so what? You
Well,
didn't
the way
lose.
they had the logo designed, and I'm going to date myself here, but I actually thought that, okay, this must have come out at the same time as the first season of Survivor had its big success, because that you're fighting to be the lone survivor and get your logo, but that actually wasn't until like about a year after this. So there goes that brilliant
Yeah, no,
idea that I had. But the
no.
logo is kind of similar. The whole theme is kind of similar, but I don't know. But I did think there were way too many Survivor Series matches on this card. There were four.
This one
Well,
stick.
three, but there were
Thi-
four.
This one sticks with me the most because I remember, obviously, just the disappointment of straight Survivor Series matches. But then
Oh, they
it was,
they blend together.
they do. It's a very, very kind of forgettable pay per view. But then again, it's not because it has these big punctuation moments and these big events that get referenced years down the line. So
Yes.
where do you want to start with this, Dave? Because like,
Well, how about the beginning of the card, Dara?
okay, we can start there.
Embolak.
So yeah, next week I'm gonna just randomly break out a show that you haven't seen, and we're gonna talk about it again. Just
Please do. And hey, post it while you're at it.
absolutely. Okay, so the show opened up with a traditional Survivor Series match. D'Lo Brown, the Godfather, and the Headbangers, who were still around at this point, they disappear at
Forgot they were. Forgot they were.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of hoes in this match, by the way.
a lot of hope. Well, that was the whole point, wasn't it? Because it was such a big, there's such a mass of humanity, and then
Well,
there was,
that needs to be addressed, though. There were a lot of hoes in this match.
and okay, so for people who may have not seen the show or may not be aware of what a hoe is in this context, Dave, please explain.
Right. So the Godfather had his floozies, and they were called hoes, and they came with him to the ring, and they were usually locally hired strippers, legitimately. If you no, legitimately.
Really?
So, I mean, maybe I don't know.
Well, see,
I think they got
okay,
them off Craigslist.
can I just say they weren't floozies? They're
Oh, right, because floozies were
floozies are like what Chris Jericho's Curtis. He was a floozy.
right, of course.
These are
Right.
working girls.
These are well, no, because working that no, these are just dancing girls. They're not working girls. There's a difference there.
Excuse me. How dare I?
I don't
How
want
dare
you to insult one old profession for one almost as old profession.
Anyway, I interrupt. Continue.
Right. So why did you throw this to me? We've covered this on this show like 5 times. We've talked about The Godfather for multiple weeks. The point is he brought a lot of hoes with him to the ring, and JR was really into them.
That's because there was like 8 dudes in the match. Like you had to bring one for each, and then
So
one
he
for
brought like
himself.
4. Brought like 4. Jerry Lawler had a really creepy line about the one in blue, and it was bad. It was Jerry Lawler being Jerry Lawler at his Jerry Lawlerist on this pay-per-view.
Did you write it down?
I didn't write it down, but it was something. I'm not saying it.
Okay, fair.
I want you to say it. I want your mom to walk in your room again.
I don't know what to say, man. It's just
Something about helping her out of her lovely attire.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Isn't it? It was along those lines. The point is, there were like 5 of them, 4 or 5 of them. They could have been their own Survivor Series team. This could have been a 3-way, quite frankly. It could have been a 3. It could have been. Could have been.
So anyway, the Dudleys actually, and also it was pretty funny with the hose and Bubba Ray. I think they made a big thing out of that as well.
Funny with the hose and Bubba Ray, and can we give Tim White a shout out for his dancing at the end of this match?
He had a great time. This is before he was suicidal.
Yes.
That whole gimmick, yes. Which was not a good gimmick. So obviously
Poor gimmick. I'm glad we started to show off with this, by the way.
You suggested it.
I mean, I don't know why you threw it to me.
So D'Lo Brown and the Godfather and the Headbangers won the match, which was kind of weird, but it kind of made sense. It made everyone kind of happy. The Acolytes still weren't like the friendly Acolytes that everybody liked the APA yet. That wasn't a thing.
Right. So is that a Nokian on their chest? I'm assuming it is based on.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, from the satanic stuff that they were doing.
Well, actually, that wouldn't be satanic. That would have
No,
been
but yeah, but that was
angelic.
yeah, but that was the
Let's get our occult history correct here.
fair. They're cultic symbols anyway. But
I'm
they
curious
were
as to
there.
what it said.
I don't think they even know what it says. If
Do you think they just
honestly,
did the pattern? Because that's a shame. Because I do have a book somewhere that actually has the meanings. Not
right.
for their, like, I'd have to actually look it up individually, but I'm curious if somebody on staff actually was like, we're going to write something that makes sense, or if there's like, this looks pretty.
I would heavily lean towards the second one. But if you guys do know, let us know in the comments below, because that would be pretty cool.
Can you imagine painting your chest for several years with symbols and somebody coming up to you being like, so what did that mean? And you were just like, APA?
Dude, people get tattoos that they don't know what they mean. So come on, like, people be people.
People be people.
So it just is what it is at this point. But if anyone does know, let us know, because that would be cool. And yeah, so the Dudleys obviously weren't super over yet, and the Acolytes were just kind of floating. So it kind of made sense. The next match was interesting because Kurt Angle showed up, and he defeated Stan Stasiak in one of the most disappointed matches ever.
This is one of the worst debuts I've ever seen.
It
That
is.
was very well wrestled.
It was a good match, but
Here's
it
my
was
problem with
so
it. Sean
weird.
Stasiak looks way too good. And I'm not
But
saying that like to be funny. Like Sean Stasiak comes off way too competent against quote unquote the only real athlete in the WWE. They build him up as, Kurt Angle being the gold medal champion that he actually was. And then to see somebody stand his ground against him, it should have been a 3-minute squash match. What happened?
well, they didn't know what to do when you had to play for time. You also didn't know if Kurt Angle would be any good yet. So they're like, okay, go out there and just you have 5 minutes, and it's a 5 minute match. And again, like, what's Kurt Angle actually going to do? At this point, like,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what he did. He was fast, man.
He was.
He was fast on those counters when he would spin around to throw on the arm locks and such. Holy cow! I forgot how good young Kurt Angle was. We haven't done the show on it yet, but it really made me think of that 2005 match he had against Brock Lesnar over in Japan, when just both of them soaring at a speed that you forgot that they were capable of when we look at them from 2020 hindsight and 2020 the year hindsight.
I was watching something from TNA the other day, and it was when he did the flip off the top
of the cage.
No, he did a run and flip. I think it was onto AJ. I was just like, oh my god.
He would do a lot of somersaults.
Yeah, and
he also did moonsaults off of steel cages. He did some crazy stuff in TNA.
And this was 2011. Actually, the best match I've ever seen in my life was not to go too far off topic, but the best match I've ever seen in my life was a house match in Dublin between AJ Styles and Kurt Angle that went on for an hour.
I buy it.
It was unbelievable, like absolutely amazing. But anyway, yeah, this match was super good. I think it served its purpose. It served its purpose, but it didn't do anything for Kurt Angle. Like it.
You know what though? I will say this: he was good on his mic. He was good on the mic for it being his first appearance in front of a pay-per-view crowd and a live crowd, to be able to get out of the match and cut a quick promo, even though they didn't have the volume for the mic up. But
see, they wouldn't know what to do with him until Royal Rumble. 2000 is when it starts getting more. He gets settled in, and he starts working with Jericho. That's when it really clicks, and then he started working with Benoit. So it was what it was. For me, looking back, and even now, I'm like, okay, it was a good match, but it was silly. It had no build. It was just there. So
yeah, it was disappointing. It was kind of cool though to hear Kurt Angle's music without the fans chanting "You suck," because I'm curious at what point they started doing that. So I'm going to enjoy this build.
After he had his feud with Edge.
Well, we'll get to.
Yeah, so basically that feud was over a shampoo commercial in Japan, and Edge challenged Kurt to a hair versus hair match.
Right.
And that's where I came from. So,
Well,
okay.
I'm gonna forget to say it later because that's kind of awesome host I am. Edge's spears looked phenomenal in his
Oh,
early
absolutely.
career, and on this pay-per-view in particular, much better than they look 10, 15 years down the line, I have to say. Much more believable to me.
Also, that Survivor Series match is probably the best one of the night as well. So, but obviously with the people thing, but we'll get to that. Okay, Gangrel, Mark Henry, Steve Blackman, Val Venus defeated the British Bulldog and the Main Street Posse. This would be British Bulldog's last match in WWE, I believe, on pay-per-view.
I think so, timeline-wise, that makes
Yeah,
sense. He does not look good in this match.
this was not a good match for anyone involved.
No, I just mean he had, you know how at the end of Hogan's final run, he just had this really brown, leathery look to him.
Yeah, that's what Bulldog looked like as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not healthy,
I think
unfortunately.
there was a lot of filler in this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of collagen. And you.
And I think a lot of it is just
There's a lot of
because.
silicone too. While we're talking about filler on this show.
Well, we'll get to that.
Are we? Did we get to it, or was that during the Ho train? It could go either way, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, but I think it. It was what it was. So the next match we have is, oh god, the 8-woman tag team match. So Deborah, the Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, Tori defeated Ivory, Jacqueline, Luna, and Terry Reynolds. So this was
wait. How are you? What is wrong with you tonight?
Why?
Seriously, are you just going to keep skipping everything that's important?
What did I miss?
Prior to this match is one of the greatest backstage segments in the history of WWE, and that is good old Michael Cole going into the Divas locker room for an interview.
Okay, yeah, I did forget that one. Oh, creepy Michael Cole.
I don't understand it. It comes out of left field. For those who didn't see the pay-per-view, basically, was it Tori? I think it was Tori, right? Yeah, it was Kane's. So, and I guess this kind of fit into the whole weird Kane not being liked by Jerry Lawler thing, which we'll get to in a bit. But so Tori, being Kane's girlfriend at the time, tries to get Michael Cole to, help her out with some body lotion, tells him to come back after the match to lick it off or something. Very peculiar. Michael Cole's in his backstage role. I didn't get this segment at all. I don't know. But see what the problem with late 90s WWE is? I'm still trying to make the storylines make sense because in my head, I can still tie it into a bigger storyline that's some weird subplot of a soap opera happening.
Well, remember, Russo wasn't writing this now. So a lot of this is kind of floating. And that's the problem with this until about Royal Rumble 2000 when someone actually new takes over and has some kind of consistency. So a lot of weird stuff happens at this point. So just bear that in mind that it probably means nothing. Because I don't think they ever brought it up again.
Oh.
But still, good attempt.
Did you? There was a good attempt by me to bring full circle.
Points for
Kane, Lawler, Cole. I don't know. This is more attention than any show has given it. That possible connection probably ever. All right, we'll continue. So this match was awful.
Yes.
Mae Young and Moolah, I have no idea why they were wrestling.
Because at this point, they had used them so much as comedy. It just made sense to bring them in.
And I feel bad for them. They got used very well in the mid-2000s because there was a certain level of respect, I guess, that we had for them, which I guess you wouldn't have had if not for this as a modern fan. So I understand.
That's exactly what
Lawler is cruel.
Yeah, but this is Lawler being his most Lawleriest.
This was Lawler at his most Lawleriest.
So, literally, this is peak Lawler.
And Luna, my goodness, that hairstyle.
Next pay-per-view in the timeline, it's even worse. Lawler. No, Lawler gets...
Because we'll get...
No, you'll see why. I don't want to ruin it, but you'll see why. Lawler gets so... Oh man, it's off the chain.
Is he? So anyway, this went. Moolah somehow beat Ivory.
Yep.
To win this match. That happened.
It did happen.
I don't know. I'm really sad that I missed out on Ivory.
Hey man, it's called a rewind. We're gonna go back, and there's a lot more Ivory coming up. So
Well, I'd kind of like to see early Ivory. She's kind of hitting the point where I'm not as interested.
yeah, we're going back. Don't worry, we will be
A
going
lot of
back.
time travel in this episode. We are the John Teeters of wrestling coverage.
Absolutely.
But
Okay,
after this match was
Kane versus X-Pac.
Lawler's line of the night,
Oh, go on.
which was yeah, no. Well, I'm not going to say it, but it was it was in the Kane versus X-Pac match.
Oh yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
And
my
Jerry
God,
Lawler referred to Kane as the big red R word. And
yeah.
I was taken aghast.
I forgot about that. You're right. That was horrific.
I was really, really shocked.
Cancel Lawler. 2020. Oh my God, yeah.
And it's not the worst thing that Lawler does on this show.
No. As I said,
it's
this show and the next show are the most Lawlerous Lawler, and I can't believe this. Look, obviously we say a lot of stuff in jest, but his commentary is reprehensible.
His commentary. When does Terry Runnels come out? She hasn't come out yet, right?
Oh no, she was out already. She was in the match.
Oh, okay. So I need to set this up. You need to understand how much Jerry Lawler went insane for Terry Runnels in this match, and he did it. When the Hardys were out there later. Just you have to watch this pay-per-view and pay attention to how hard he goes in for Terry Runnels, because it gets so much creepier when we'll get to a later match.
Yeah, he needs to, obviously, 20 years ago, these are notes for you, Jerry. You don't care as a millionaire, but it's just...
Yeah, who were we?
It's just okay, man, the fact he got away with it is amazing. The fact that nobody, remembers it is even more incredible. So it's just but when it happens, you're like, oh my God. And when you go...
All that people remember is he said puppies a lot.
Yeah, it's no, he said a lot worse. But to be fair, the signs are just as bad.
Yes, so the fans, but would I think Lawler is the cause of the signs?
Probably, yeah, because it's just he's an enabler.
I didn't realize that the fans were also chanting puppies and everything else.
Oh, they showed worse.
Yeah.
So it's I suppose it was, again, obviously this is of its time, if that happened now in the WWE, there'd be lawsuits and people would be cancelled and hashtags. And...
I'm surprised our show manages to get up on YouTube each week. By the way, if it's ever missing for a certain week, it's because us talking about the late 90s made it not get up there, not because Dara didn't do something.
When really it's my fault. Okay, so
you're welcome. People who've been following my channel for 12 years and have no idea what this random show is, you're very, very welcome.
You are very welcome. Give us money. Okay, so the next match is the Big Show defeating the Big Boss Man, Prince Albert, and Viscera. Now this was a weird match because it literally came out of nowhere.
This was terrible. Prince Albert, finally. All these years I've never actually seen a Prince Albert match, and all I had to do was see his get up, and I went, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, that was the whole gimmick. It just rolled out for you.
He literally went, we got a really hairy guy. What are we going to do? Put him in mesh.
See, the whole thing, he was supposed to be like a piercer. Prince Albert. And he actually
I'm aware of what. Yeah, thank you.
And that's what's in this little kit. That's the piercing kit. And
well, wait, could you... See, I filled people in earlier about The Godfather and the hose. Could you explain to people what Prince Albert is?
I don't know.
Would you recommend that our viewers Google it?
I know Prince Albert was a king or prince at some point in England.
Well, you better. It's your next door neighbor.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend Googling it, but
I would do image search for it.
Anyway, we had Midian wearing Midian. I felt sorry for him.
Why is this guy around? I'm so sorry. Please don't come kill me. But why is this guy alive and wrestling?
The reason was because the Ministry had broken up and the Undertaker was injured. So all the Ministry of Darkness was, to be fair, right? The Ministry and the corporate ministry were half the roster.
But who?
And nobody.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Why does Midian exist?
Because Midian was actually, he was like brainwashed and like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna
No,
have
you're
to
missing. You're missing me. Why does Midian have a contract and exist?
because WWE had a lot of filler before during the Attitude Era. But
Wait, his stepfather was Ron Slinker. I don't just see, and his mother was Lorna Slinker. Doesn't have a page. Used to have a page. It got deleted from Wiki. This was some weird form of nepotism. I don't.
No, Dennis Knight had been around for ages, right? So.
Oh, why?
Because he just was a good hand. He had a lot to do.
No.
He had a lot to do. But anyway. Oh, I don't even think. Oh, we haven't even got to Naked Midian yet. You're in for a treat. That's in 2000.
That's not a thing.
That's much. No, it is. That's much
not
worse.
A thing.
It is a thing.
That's not a thing.
It is a thing. What?
It's not a thing.
You just wait. So basically, at this point, as I said, a lot of the corporate ministry were kind of just left floating because Russo was gone and Undertaker was gone, so there was nothing to do. And so that's why you're getting Midian and Viscera and Big Boss Man just showing up doing random things. But we have to talk about this, right? Big Boss Man's, sadly, this is what he's known most for now. So Big Show's dad had died in real life.
Oh yes, this is one of those big storylines that we've talked about.
But it wasn't a storyline. It was real. His dad actually died.
Wait,
and
really?
And they turned it into a storyline. And not only did they turn it into a storyline, but Big Boss Man showed up at obviously the funeral. This part was kayfabe. The funeral, he showed up at it, and then Big Show jumped on the cop car, and Big Boss Man pulled the casket away, and
so that's the part that I'm talking about that people always reference. Yeah. I didn't know that this was like real life. I mean, not real life, but that this timeline wise was real life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's why it gets referenced all the time, because
this is like Katie Vick level bad. This might be worse.
Yeah. This is funny.
Wow.
This is why the Big Boss Man has such a horrible like stain on it. This year was just not good for him.
Who was writing this show?
I don't know. But the Boss Man was the hardcore title holder at this point. And the Big Show just comes out and kills them all. Literally.
So this is up there with the Charlotte Flair promo about her brother.
Yeah.
This is up there with oh my gosh, who else was it that they cut a really not tasty promo like right as the person died? This was like 10 years ago. Help my brain here, Dara.
Yeah, it was David
recovering wrestling.
David Flair.
No. That one too. But this another one. There was another instance. Comment in the section below if you remember the wrestler who died that got mocked on television as a storyline. The Paul Bearer stuff.
There was Paul Bearer. There was Randy Orton mocking Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
There's loads of them. It's just what they do. Way too many. It's what they do. They don't do it now, thankfully, but it's still a thing.
The David Flair thing was only like 4 years ago.
Was it? Oh well, Jesus. Anyway, so after this, obviously the Big Show and Boss Man fight to the back, and after this is another thing that lives in infamy. So Kevin Kelly. I miss Kevin Kelly. He was great. He was one of the best WWE backstage people. Better than Mean Gene. Just saying. Better than Michael Cole.
You can leave. Just leave the stream off and
he's better than anyone else. He should have got the robe instead of Michael Cole. Telling you. Kevin Kelly for life, yo.
Well, you have to call up Tori and ask why Michael Cole got the robe.
Oh, really?
That's a reference back to a backstage segment. Look at me. I told you I'm making the segment relevant again.
Of course. So Triple H interrupts in the most Triple H way possible. And, they fight for a little while. And he goes back. Austin remembers to pick up his hat. And they're running down.
You noticed that?
Yeah.
I noticed that. You know why I noticed that? Because I went, something pre-tapes about that.
Oh, that's a very good point. You're right. Because there's a hard like pre-tape cut where it's like they shot it and then they go through the door and everything
Yes.
changes. The light changes, the camera setup changes, everything.
And the actor in me that knows continuity and watches for it in film and TV was like, something's going to happen right now, because that was a really awkward grab of the hat. He could have
You're
just left
right.
it behind.
You're right. That's a very good point. And then there's the fakest run of that car hit and run ever, where this car Austin just dives on the car and yeah, then drives away.
Well, he did it for The Rock, and
Well,
that's what matters.
we didn't know that at this point. So
That's what's weird for me watching this is I'm sitting there in my mind going, okay, I know who's in the car, supposedly. I know that it's for The Rock.
mm,
I don't know who's going to win the main event. So in my head, I was convinced The Rock was going to win, and I was trying to figure out how Rikishi fit into this whole pay-per-view. This is how disjointed it was. This has to be a clear example of they had no plan when they shot this segment who was going to be in the car.
they didn't.
And I postulate here to you on today that because Jerry Lawler on commentary makes a claim that the person driving the car had blonde hair, as if to point fingers at Billy Gunn, that and only that is the reason why it's Rikishi.
It makes more sense than what they actually said. So this would obviously in storyline take Austin out for months, and he'd return a year later at No Mercy, right? Which is a pretty cool match. We've talked about that before. We will talk about it in the future as well. But it also opens the door for Austin to be gone. So this opens up the rise of Triple H and the rise of The Rock. Very important. This is the point that the WWE changes and becomes what you think it is. I would say that while Stone Cold Steve Austin is probably my favorite wrestler of all time, or most impactful wrestler of all time for me, he's bigger than Hulk Hogan and deserves more praise than that. But I would argue, if it wasn't for this happening, the WWE wouldn't have reached its heights that it did. 2000 is a very important year, and you'll see why. And it is solely because of The Rock and Triple H on the top of the card. But also with that, all the people
Wait,
outside of it,
more Triple H at the top of the card? You mean we haven't finished covering that era yet?
it's just coming into it.
Good Lord. Now I understand why people come 2003 were not watching this product anymore.
Yeah, well, you're about to see like the best year of wrestling.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm really liking Triple H during this period. He's actually phenomenal.
Yeah, so but this is what I mean. The Rock comes into it. You have Cactus Jack coming back. You have Mick Foley really going for it. The Undertaker returns with the American Badass. The influence of the Radicals, Jericho. It just all kind of hits in, and it only happens because there's room made. So while it's unfortunate that Austin, like this is pretty much like the end of Austin's career, really. Like he has another 3 years, but they're very slow and they're very different. Like he's going off in real life to get the next surgery that happened because of Owen Hart.
Walkout.
No, this wasn't the walkout. This was way before the walkout. This one got
That's what I'm
walkout.
saying. What year is that?
2003.
Okay.
This is like way before. This is literally because of the
neck.
Paul Driver. Yeah, the neck. This is the Paul Driver thing that's just been building up for years. And yeah, he's gone for
Thanks,
about a year.
Owen Hart. 99 really was your year.
Oh God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everyone who got offended by that. And we called Jerry Lawler reprehensible.
I'm just trying to do my part. I'm deplorable.
Dave doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. I stand by it. Okay. Jesus. Okay. So moving on, we have the next line. We have the next match. And I don't know, man. Okay, what do you think of this China Jericho feud? Because it's
okay.
In hindsight.
Okay.
Sorry, go on. I'll let you talk.
No. I'll let you, please. Okay. Well, I won't actually let you. This match was terrible.
No, not the match.
Oh,
the feud. I need to know what the overall opinion of somebody who didn't grow up with this was.
China's not attractive. I don't enjoy these matches.
Yeah.
What let me say? You got Miss Kitty standing out there next to her, which is a very poor choice on the part of whoever is doing this. China should not be contrasted against somebody like that. And I was very disappointed. I thought that I was going to like China during her like quote unquote prime, and we saw some good build up with Jared. Even though I thought, I just think she's really stiff. I'm sorry, and when I say, that comment, it's not even so much about her looks. It's more just about like the clear steroid usage. It just grosses me out.
Hmm.
Like it's just her makeup or whatever. It's just very bizarre and I don't like this. I thought this would be a good match because Jericho does some insane things in this match. He does like a top rope plancha diagonally to the outside of the ring, which was gorgeous. China messes up so much.
Well, it's funny. There's a match coming up that's kind of like the bookend to this at the Royal Rumble. So put a pin in it. Royal Rumble 2000 is kind of like there's a triple threat match, and Jericho talks about in his book.
Okay, but I'm done. Like at this point, I just want you to know right now. At this point, like I've been watching the China build. I've been watching her get her IC win, and I just don't. I want to be done with her.
Don't worry. The end is coming soon with this Jericho feud. As I said, the Royal Rumble sets up Jericho to start feuding with Benoit.
Oh, and we did get some of our Jerry Lawlerist with the Miss Kitty being out there. Obviously. And I don't know if I even blame him because
that's fair. That's fair. Jericho looks class in this, though, I must say. Like the beard.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like, that's a cool look. I think that's the coolest Jericho ever looked. And remember, this is only like 3 months after he debuted. So he's like properly like, he just oozes main eventer already.
Yeah, he's properly putting over.
Such a cool, like,
yeah.
Jericho's best years are obviously like ahead of him at this point, but
nothing makes me love Chris Jericho more than seeing him get pinned to a botched pedigree from the top rope. I'm just like, yay.
But the fact that he still took that move was, just shows you what he was willing to kind of do. As he said, take insane stuff, but
that's my problem. Like, I thought China was, now granted, I'm graced by modern WWE female wrestlers who are very, very talented, but I thought China was some amazing talent that was unstoppable in the ring from a standpoint. China she literally is just roided up, and
China was just the first.
Yeah,
that's all.
She was impressed.
She was just the first woman to do all the things rather than to innovate, which would come many years later. But then
that is a great point. I'm so glad you pointed that way. China did it first, but she did not innovate.
No, innovation will come. But remember, after this point, from about 2003 till about 2017, 16, women's wrestling would be atrocious in WWE, and women in general.
Well, no, 2012?
15? Yeah, like that's what I mean.
AJ came around and
but that's still very recent.
Well, she was the first. She was the first of the females to actually be good.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, it took what, maybe 20 years?
Well, because we had to watch the Bellas be in charge for 5 years.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
dude. China, I was on a wrestling news site this week, and I saw a story that John Cena totally called Nikki Bella, and I totally didn't click on the story, so I don't know what the call was about.
You did click on it, didn't you?
I didn't. I honestly didn't. Like that's literally how uninterested I was.
Oh, fair. I thought it was a bit. I was just
like... No. If you go on the sites, this actually popped up as a YouTube video suggestion. It was like, your WWE news of the week: John Cena calls Nikki Bella, and there were like 3 other things on there, and I skipped it. I didn't watch it. It's like, is that the clickbait? Is that how you're trying to get me?
Fair. But yeah, so China did win with, as you said, a botched pedigree. From the top rope, and this would set up obviously further down the line. So we're still not done with the Jericho thing, but we're nearly there. Jericho will get his comeuppance. He will get the IC belt very soon. So we're almost there.
There are way too many low blows on this pay-per-view. I know we're only halfway through it.
The pay-per-view is, you could tell they were just trying to run through it. And as I said, it's not a bad show. It's like the definition of filler. It really is just filler show.
But there's so many things that you remember forever.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
can you have a
So,
filler pay-per-view that also stays with you forever and has
well,
iconic moments? It's
yeah,
so bizarre.
it's crazy. It has these crazy moments that as you said, they're iconic. But then the actual wrestling itself, you're like, man, what is this? Like, what am I watching? So yeah, the next match was just another cluster, an absolute cluster of but in the best way. As we said, the other traditional Survivor Series matches have been kind of bad. This is cool because you have the Hardys, too cool, who are incredibly over.
They
Uh,
are fantastic in this
yeah,
match.
absolutely. The Hardys and the Hollies, all of which are, they're young, they're fit, they're ready to go, and it's such a fun little match. It's so 15 minutes. It's the best thing on the card by a country mile. And who actually picks up? Oh, too cool, man.
I know
Yeah,
Too Cool one. I'm saying
too
I take the
too.
main event though. That'd be better. This wasn't the best thing on it. This was a
Yeah,
bit.
well,
This was the first half of this was incredibly sloppy.
yeah, it was. But I think the Hollies and Too Cool were kind of well together. So when he started functioning as
Hollies
a
work
team, it
well,
was cool.
yes.
Yeah.
Now this needs to be addressed. I've been saving this up. Like I've been waiting all night to blow
Oh, go
this
on,
one.
go on.
So I set you guys up earlier with Lawler, really diving into Terry Runnels and just how infatuated he was with Terry Runnels. And that is some of Lawler being his Lawleriest.
Hmm.
Some of the other Lawleriest, which at some point is just going to come out like I'm talking about Hugh Laurie, is
Hmm.
the way that Jerry Lawler talks about his son, which at this point I did not realize they actually were acknowledging was his son, because Jim Ross would actually talk to them about
Yes.
that. And that commentary, by the way, deserves some mention. I'll get to that in a second. But so Jerry Lawler is marking out hard for Grandmaster Sexy, and I mean hard.
Hold on, can I just stop you? It's
Yes.
it's not Grandmaster Sexy. It's Grandmaster
Oh,
Sexy.
okay. Well, you can.
Get it right.
Thank you, Jr. I appreciate that. But the point here being that the commentary during this match lets you know that Jerry the King Lawler is definitely Brian Christopher's dad.
Yes.
And Brian Christopher starts dancing in front of Terry Runnels, who Jerry Lawler has been making comments about the entire night. And then he starts encouraging his son to be with the girl that he was making the comments about all night. And I'm sitting there as if you were going, what am I watching at this point?
I don't like that. I don't like that connection.
Creepy.
Oh my God.
Wow. It was so creepy. And these are the kind of things that I focus on when I make notes for
So what
we
need to do is we need to like time travel and give these notes to Jerry Lawler so we can make the changes and be like
Jerry Lawler, don't hit on a woman profusely and then set your son up with her. That's not what you should do during the course of the commentary of a pay-per-view.
Imagine that
little 9-year-old Dave is really confused.
Imagine that was your job. It's like, well, what did you do today? Well. Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't know how you go back to it. But I will say I did appreciate Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross as a commentary duo.
Oh, they're great.
At
they're
points
so good.
During this
they're
night.
Great. Yeah, they're great.
Right before the main event, I'm just going to talk about it now. Right before the main event, there's a great line where Lawler and JR are just going back and forth, because the storyline is that Jim Ross isn't really into these matches because his best friend Stone Cold just got ran over, and Jerry Lawler's questioning whether or not Jim Ross is really friends with Stone Cold, and I'm not sure what that was about. I'm sure that won't lead anywhere. And at one point, Lawler's just egging Ross on, and Ross is just like, "You're an idiot," and it just kept going. But there was something so real and so natural that, to me, it kind of hit that chemistry point of this is why people love them as a team during this period too.
Look, they were one of the best teams, and to be fair, like, even though all the stuff we say about Jerry Lawler, which is 100% true, by the way, like, you can't defend the stuff he says, but
I mean,
it's still really entertaining, particularly when you have JR as a straight man.
And it's still not as bad as Jeff Hardy's 450 splash. So
anyway, so the next match would be
was it not terrible?
It was terrible. But again,
I like seeing it.
Look,
and I like the reaction by the commentators of what the heck is this move?
Yeah, because again, like the Hardys are pretty much, from anytime you see them in the ring with Edge and Christian, they're going out to steal the show.
Yes.
And that ends in really amazing ways, but also explains why all the other things happen in the future, because you're like, well, look at all the
Yes.
things you did. It's like,
I think about that in the back of my mind. I'm
yeah,
like, is
don't,
this one of the? It's hard
don't.
not to.
Yeah, I know, but remember, just watch it as it happens rather than the
Why I
future.
did watch as it happens, and I thought it was really cool that they didn't even know that it was called a 450 splash.
Of course not, because WWE.
Right.
Why would
But
they know
these were
that?
very
They're not.
rare.
Yeah, of course. Well, remember, ECW was the thing, and WCW was the thing. Mike Tenay was not on the show, and neither was Joey Styles. People who knew
I
the names of the
understand that,
matches
but I'm just
knew the
saying
names of the moves.
that you have Jeff Hardy do a 450 splash in the, I don't know, not the co-main event, but 3 matches before the main event of the night. You have him do a 450 splash on a Survivor Series pay-per-view, and the crowd's like, holy cow. The commentators are like, what on earth was that move? They replay it in an astonishing way. They don't even know what to call it. And then you fast forward to 2016, 2017, and AJ Styles does a springboard 450 to the outside and puts Dean Ambrose through a table. Like, I can't comprehend that progression in my head. Like, I still can't believe they let Styles do that move. And I guess I figured out a way to get him into this pay-per-view somehow. But
Well, would you know? Would you know that Styles would appear in WWE about 5 years later on Velocity?
I did know
4 years
that.
later.
I did
Yeah.
know that.
So
Yeah.
anyway, moving on to this tag team match, the New Age Outlaws versus Mankind and Al Snow, who were teaming at this point, and
Well,
they've
this really tugged at my heartstrings, Dara. As JR said, Mankind gave Al Snow head back on Thursday on
yes.
SmackDown, and it was phenomenal. And I was really happy that Al
So
Snow got head again.
so for the listeners, head is a mannequin,
Mannequin head, yeah.
mannequin head,
Would
exactly.
you? What
It's
were
not.
you?
It's nothing else.
What
Just
were
so
you?
it. That's all. That's all I was saying. I just wanted to
I'm
make
trying
it
to keep our
aware.
show rated for kids, Dara. What's wrong with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah,
This is why
pretty
our
much
shows don't get posted.
pretty straightforward match. The New Age Outlaws would win. Mick Foley has terrible luck going against the Outlaws. Really does.
Yeah.
Never goes well with the Outlaws.
No.
Really doesn't. So what would happen as a result of this?
I like the
We would.
snowplow, by the way. It's worth mentioning. I think it's
It's
a
a
really
great.
cool looking
It's a
move.
cool move. Like Al Snow should have gotten better in his career, but
And
he also.
he should have. And I also like how indignant JR and Lawler are anytime somebody comes near their announce table. Like they
Well,
do
actually,
not want people getting thrown through it. And I love that.
no. My favorite moment is the jerks that are behind them the whole night, and
Oh, you
the
talk about the
kids.
kid?
Yeah,
Yes.
such a little jerk ass. Doing.
If we both watched pay-per-view, we didn't talk about this beforehand, and that kid stands out in my mind too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to be all sad about
Just
Stone
like,
Cold, and he's just going crazy
and
behind
he's just go
Lawler.
crazy. But I love the fact. I love that the security guard comes over and he's like, "Here, go away, stop."
The security guard, like wearing
The yellow
that
vest thing.
hat. Well, the yellow, not just him, but who was the one wearing the black cap? Oh, they're not called fedoras. Oh, they wear them in Ireland.
Oh, the park cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, why was the security guard wearing that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know.
But I just love the fact that you're like, the lack of respect for like any of it. They're just like,
Well, they
oh, we're just
don't know
gonna.
what they're talking about on commentary. To be fair,
Yeah, but they probably saw it and they're like, oh, Austin's probably dead, and it's just like, oh, hey, we're all here. It's just like, oh man, you're such jerks.
not the best.
You'd never see that. Well, obviously, like you wouldn't see it now because there's no one there. But like you wouldn't see it like ever. Like imagine that you're watching Raw and like all the kids are just annoying them. Like it's not. You just wouldn't see it. It's so
No,
funny.
because they
It's
sell
so
those
awesome.
tickets for like $3,000 a pop now. So
Yes, well, this is probably why it's like, oh, keep the rabble away, So this is
no.
this is probably exactly why. But unless you're in Saudi Arabia and then they just have them, they give tickets away for free. But I don't know, does that work the same? I don't know, guys. If let us know, is that how it work in Crowd and Show? I don't know, but yeah, this is when you could buy tickets and just be a jerk ass in the booth. So He was, and so was his mates. I don't know which one was worse. Every time I watch it, I'm like, which one here is more annoying, and which one would I be if I was in production going, please stop. You're ruining
Just
the
please
whole.
cut away. You're
You're
killing
ruining.
our you're
You're
killing
ruining
our
the whole thing.
shots.
Yeah, you're ruining the whole thing. Oh man, I think your man over on the left is funnier. Where he's like, yeah,
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 he was cracking me up.
yeah. He was so funny. Okay, so obviously, as a result of what happened when Austin, the Big Show, randomly is in the match for the main event, right?
Not obviously, I didn't see it coming. Surprised the heck out of me.
Well, it's obvious that's random. Like, so why is he here? Oh, there he is. You know.
This was one of those moments that I loved where Lawler and Ross were
Oh,
trying
actually,
to
hold on,
set this
hold
match
on,
up.
hold on. There's 1 second, right? So the kid later on shows up with a sign, right? Aaron, I want steak. I forgot he did that. Yeah, so he just shows up and walks across the whole thing. I'm trying to read what it actually says. So yeah, obviously they're still talking about Austin and that, right? But then this
Yes.
same kid just shows over and he's like, "That's it, Aaron. I want a steak, well done." And then
Oh,
security gives out to him, and he
as
looks
you
really
do.
guilty. Yeah.
As you do.
Uh,
Anyway, I wanted to say leading up to this main event, I love the commentary between Ross and Lawler. It's dysfunctional, but they're just trying to get across the point that Vince McMahon is no longer going to be the special guest referee and Austin's no
yeah,
longer in the match. But for some
yeah,
reason, they can't get that line out.
yeah. I think they're playing up like how chaotic it is because obviously Vince isn't backstage, and they're running around. So,
But
and there
this
was
was
no like
so
true.
real. I like this. It
Well,
worked.
there was no true line at this point as well. I wouldn't be shocked if they made this up on the night. Because again, like Big Show's dad did actually die, so
Mm.
it's like okay, it makes sense. But here's a question I have on this: if Big Show wasn't in this match, right, would you have been happy with his performance in the show? Because I remember watching it and thinking that was kind of lame, but then when he came out in this match, I was like, oh, okay, makes
I
more sense
thought
now.
that Viscera should not have been the last one eliminated
Mm,
because of the sell of the clothesline.
yeah,
I mean, not the clothesline, the
the choke
choke
slam.
slam from hell.
Yeah,
That being said, oh my gosh, he gets Midian, who's a huge dude, up really high. And so I didn't mind having a squash match for a Survivor Series match because, see, I didn't know that this is what it was culminating to.
mm,
So, in the gist of things, I actually thought that it worked. And the spot during the main event where Big Show takes that suplex through the announce table, and I'm pretty sure Triple H
yes.
gets killed during the performance of this move, really stood out to me. So, I don't know. I liked it.
It was cool. It was cool. I think Big Show was his most dominant here than he's ever been. He
Oh,
really
so
looks like a monster.
fast. When did he come over to WWE?
He was only there since February of
Okay.
1999. So this is still his rookie year. So he's still rather green with the way WWE
So
works.
fast.
But he was so fast. He looked great. And yeah, man, like this would probably be the highlight of his career for a very long time.
Do you ever forget how big someone is when we're talking about the giants of WWE? Because I
No,
forget how big Big Show is until I saw
no,
him clutching the title at the end of this
because
match. And I realized that the championship title is the size of his fist. And then I felt like a very small man.
no, I will never forget how big the Big Show or Kane actually are because I've seen them in real life.
Well, so have I, but
Yeah, I know, but we have no reference for that because Irish people are not the tallest.
oh,
So
okay. That's
we're
fair.
like, we're like, well, okay, you guys are gigantic.
I forget about it. I mean, I had that same reaction the first time I saw Randy Orton in real life. But
Randy Orton looks weird. Like
he
in the
does
ring, when you see him, he's very long and strange, and you're
very
like,
long. But
do
when you
you?
see him in real life, you're like, oh wow, you're huge.
Yeah, but that's what
But
I
my
mean.
point,
It's
my
like you're
point
very.
though, hold on. My
Yeah,
point
sorry,
here
go on.
with Big
Go ahead.
Show is the size of his fist when he's holding that championship belt. He legitimately looks like a giant. And I guess this was where now this is where I'm going to create a storyline that doesn't exist. I guess this is where the storyline of Big Show being a famous crybaby starts
No, kinda.
because he's weeping.
Yeah, kinda. it's complicated. We'll get to it when it's brought up.
It has its own storyline.
Eventually, yeah, it's a
it
strange.
does in like 2011 or something.
Yeah, it's I don't know, but I remember thinking as a kid with this, because going back, obviously watching it as an adult, you're like, all right, fair enough. But watching it as a kid, I was thinking, the Big Show. It kind of makes no sense. And looking back at it 20 years later, I'm like, Big Show. Okay.
See, but I liked it because for me, I know Big Show's won the world championship a bunch of times in every company he's been in. He's one of the few to have the WCW, the WWE, and the ECW. I'm aware of this, but I didn't actually know what his first WWE title win was. So this came as a big shock to me.
Oh, wow.
I fully anticipated that The Rock was going to win this match based on what I know of WWE history. Because Rikishi did it for The Rock. Why did he do it for The Rock if The Rock didn't win? Now I'm confused. DX wasn't behind the run over. I don't know. So I'm trying to make sense of this. And I'm thinking two things in my head. Okay, Rock wins because Rikishi runs over Stone Cold, or Triple H wins because Dara picked the pay-per-view. So it was going to be one of those two things. So I was genuinely surprised by the result. And it seemed like Big Show genuinely cared about winning the championship. And sometimes we forget about that in the midst of everything else.
I agree. I think this show was very strange. It had a lot of weird moments. The matches could have been better, but the actual moments that we walk away from are moments that you'll never forget. And obviously still have echoes 20 years later. As I said, it's important for people that are watching this show and listening to it that these are the moments that define your current product.
These are the moments we'll remember for all our lives.
And on that point, Dave, what would you give this pay-per-view of?
This was wow. Before we reviewed it, I was going to give it a solid B, and now I'm going to give it a C because we've kind of torn it apart.
Yeah, but in a good way.
In a good way.
I don't think it was negative.
But I think it's wise to do it that way.
Yeah, I'd give it a solid C too. The matches aren't great. They have some cool moments. But overall, it's a pay-per-view that if it was on today, I would watch and not feel bad about it. I wouldn't feel like annoyed. I'd be like, all right, yeah, whatever, it's fine. But I wouldn't say, oh, you have to watch this show because your life's going to change. But then again, there are moments in it that are very important.
If you have to watch something, and you have these 3 pay-per-views in a row that we've covered, Survivor Series, Rebellion, and SummerSlam. What was after SummerSlam? Unforgiven.
Yeah.
No Mercy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever we watched. Anyway, the point was, Rebellion's probably the one to watch. It's fun. Not so many people have seen it. Survivor Series for the storylines for sure. No Mercy for the wrestling.
Absolutely, I think that's fair. And the next one in the story in this kind of 1999 run is Armageddon, which you're going to really like, and it's going to blow your mind. Yes, absolutely. It's very good. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views, and it's really good. So,
I read the result.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was on Wikipedia. It was in the aftermath. But I scrolled up.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay
if I saw it. Now I'm questioning why he's in the main event.
Don't watch anymore.
Oh, because of now it makes sense. Oh, okay.
It doesn't. Not yet.
Not yet.
So what I'd say is, because Survivor Series is next week. So actual Survivor Series.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, actual
Turning Point's next week. Survivor Series is the week after that.
Yeah, Turning Point is this week. Survivor Series is the week after.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we are going to talk about. I think we'll obviously talk about Turning Point next week, and then the week after that we'll talk about Survivor Series, and then we get back into the run of the show. I think at that point then we'll go into Armageddon. All right. Dave, are you with me?
Yeah, what? Was I supposed to add a bumper there? I thought you were wrapping things up.
Okay, so is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at @TheDaveStevens, please. Please.
Yes. Do #SaveDave.
Hashtag save Dave.
Again, guys, if you want to, if you like what we do here, please support the channel. That would be great. Either or, preferably the Wrestling Rewind. Check us out on Phoenix 92.5 FM. We are all over where all podcasts can be found and made available. Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week here to talk about Turning Point here on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.